The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
By Florida, I know it didn't look necessarily that bad, but Florida owned us tonight on senior night, and it's disappointing. It's very disappointing. There were a lot of things to be disappointed about, frankly. There were some times the crowd was super loud. I still think our crowds can not help out as much as others, but that's really had nothing to do with tonight's loss. I'm seeing some comments come in. Somebody says Nate Oates has turned into Avery Johnson. Come on. I mean, we can all be mad after a loss. That's fine. And Florida did beat our brakes off. I know the score ended up being 5 or 6 points or whatever it was, but no. Nate Oates is still one of the top 5 or 6 coaches in the country. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I don't want to trade him for anybody. But let's also say this. A.J. Evans says that, we got beat for these loose balls. That was a huge problem. We couldn't out-hustle them. They were determined to out-hustle us. It's not that I don't think we played lackadaisical. Sometimes when you get out-hustled, it's not because you don't hustle. It's and Todd Tipton says, pathetic, this team is soft and lazy. I don't see that. I mean, I'm mad about the loss too. I mean, we had some baffling defensive sets. There's no doubt. But I'm sort of glad hopefully to God, we're getting all this out of our system. Here's my hope, y'all, that as we're heading to the Elite Eight, we're thinking back and going, how is this the same team that got it, had a comeback loss to Tennessee, lost at home on senior night to Florida, and probably lost at home to Auburn. Lost at Auburn, and then loses in the SEC tournament early, which is probably something we're going to do. I'm not trying to paint this super negative picture because I feel like with some rest, we can get better. Stroke of bad luck tonight. First of all, losing Aiden Sherrill, who was having his best game of his career. He was already 4 of 4, hit 2 threes. And Shul Desai, I won't be saying that, says Elite Eight, laughing. Look, we lost our last game at home last year. We lost to Florida last year. They took us to school in the SEC tournament, and then we went to the Final Four. It's not crazy. It's not. This team looked a little tired tonight. And they could use some time off. I want to give all credit to Florida, though. I want to say this, that, just like everybody keeps talking about Alabama's collapse at Tennessee, and it was a collapse to a degree, but even Nate Oates said this, you got to give Tennessee some credit. I mean, they stuck in there and did their thing, right? And then tonight, you can talk about Alabama maybe getting out hustled, or you can talk about that they didn't hustle, which I disagree with. I think they hustled fine. I think Florida just hustled more. And we had zero answer for Condon. That guy's just played out of his mind tonight. He just dunked all over us. But I think that sometimes when people say, hey, the team was lazy, the team was pathetic, I don't think that. I think Florida was better than us tonight. I think Florida might be the best team in the country right now. Will they be the best time in 3 weeks, 4 weeks? I don't know. But I'm saying, like, right now, who would you rather not play than Florida? I mean, seriously. Auburn's won the SEC, there's no doubt. Florida beat them, by the way, at their place too. But this Florida team right now, if you were just saying, okay, let's who's been the second half team, best team in the SEC, it's Florida to me. I know they lost at home to Missouri. That was kind of a quirk. rough night. So here's the thing that I really wanted to talk about. Same old issues. This is what's bothering me. And Jarvis 5 brings up Grant Nelson has fallen off. I'm going to get to that in the second segment. I want to do 2 segments here. Clint Baker says, just like football, they quit. Maybe more ice cream will help. Hey, or Chuck Baker, not Clint Baker. But no, that's crazy talk. All right. So free throws. What in the world? I don't even know what to do anymore. I don't know how you fix this. And everybody says, well, just lock the gym doors and go in there and make them shoot. I don't know that that's going to help. At this point in the season, I don't know that it's a yips. It's a mental thing. It's bad. Grant Nelson's form is not good, especially on free throw. His free throws were so flat tonight. He missed them. He was 2 of 4. I think he ended up 2 of 5. I hadn't looked at the stats yet. But he was 2 of 5, I think. And he had a 1-and-1 opportunity maybe, or an and-1 or something out of a timeout and missed it. And it just rattled around, just didn't look good. So I mean, he can miss them in game, he can miss them after a timeout. You know, it's like the old saying about Bear Bryant. He can take yours and beat his, he can take his and beat yours, or whatever. And then ball protection. I mean, some really just terrible passes tonight. And again, I get that our offense is going to lead to that sometimes. Our offense lends itself to having some bad passes occasionally because you're taking some risks. Okay. But some of these weren't necessarily in what I would call that mode. These were like bad passes. Not necessarily in like a rotation of an offensive set. It was like something you'd see at the Lifetime gym that I used to play at all the time. You know, turnovers are bad. Somebody did bring this up, that at least Oates didn't go to bed with his timeouts this time. That's true. He did call a timeout with 1.7 seconds left, which was odd. Didn't need that. But so it's the same things continuing to haunt us. Where was Aiden Holloway? I don't know exactly how much he played. Again, I haven't looked at the stats. I'll pull them up in a second. But he only had 3 points, I think, in this game. So, yeah, pretty just some baffling stuff. And again, some bad luck in the sense that you lose Aiden Sherrill. Aiden Sherrill, you know, I've been saying all year, I wish he'd chill out on some of his 3-pointers till he starts making them. Well, now he's making them. So, I mean, I'm all for his taking them. And he had some really good moments in there. He had some nice defensive plays. He had a nice seal on a layup one time for somebody else. So, yeah, I think that he was playing great. And then it was just bad luck. It was a head-to-head thing, and Florida's guy was able to come back, and Alabama's guy wasn't. And sometimes that's just bad luck. It just happens that way. So, you know, would he have made a difference in this game? I'd like to think so. But in the end, your seniors got to take care of that.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Tonight, I'm looking at a ridiculous point spread in the Celtics-Sixers matchup. Boston beat Philly by 20 the last time they met, and FanDuel has taken note. FanDuel has the Celtics by 13.5. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels.
That game was a Herculean effort by Jamin Brakefield in the second half, and a hard-fought, well-played game. Both teams took care of the basketball. Both teams played really good basketball overall. This was a March game. This game had March written all over it, and Ole Miss was able to pull it out thanks to Jamin Brakefield and what he did. Ole Miss has had named games in football all the time. There's the stand. There's the immaculate deflection. Those games have been fewer and far to come by in basketball, but this will forever be known as the Jamin Brakefield game. 19 points in the second half. Chris Beard found something that was able to work, a matchup that he saw and he liked, even as good of a defensive team is as Tennessee is. And he used Jamin Brakefield to go small and exploit that. Even whenever they changed the defenders over to Meshack, they still used isolation and exploited that. Chris Beard, low-key, completely outcoached Rick Barnes in the second half of this ball game. Completely. The inbound pass with 1 second on the shot clock, a inbounds play that absolutely was fantastic, ended up in a layup for Jamin Brakefield as part of his 19 points. It ended up with a shot at the buzzer that just was off the target by the Tennessee Volunteers. They actually had a pretty good look, but they weren't able to make the shot. They weren't able to have the same luck that they had against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Ole Miss won the game. Ole Miss found themselves in a position to move up and clinch a bye in the SEC tournament, because I think Ole Miss did that. They're going to have a bye in the SEC tournament now because they're at least 2 games over everybody except Kentucky, and they have the tiebreaker with Kentucky. Mississippi State losing and Vanderbilt losing, that was just absolutely perfect for Chris Beard and the Rebels. You know, when Ole Miss had the 3-game losing streak, whenever they were losing games against Vanderbilt and against Auburn and against Mississippi State at home, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the fan base. People in the comments down below, you know who you are, telling me there's no way that this Ole Miss team could beat Tennessee. There's no way. Tennessee's going to absolutely destroy them. And I said, hey, you can't be a person that takes a data point and just stretches it out to infinity. Sports doesn't work like that. Each games are individual things. So if you do not play well in one game, that does not mean you're not going to play well in the other. Whenever you claim that and play the trends overly like that, it is folly. But this Ole Miss team is now 10-7. They are guaranteed at least 10-8 in the toughest conference in the history of college basketball. Ole Miss did that. Chris Beard did that. He has built a winner at Ole Miss. Ole Miss defeated top 5 opponents in the same season twice for the first time in program history. I'm a little bit fired up right now in a lot of ways because I want to talk about what's going on, but I want to get to your comments so we can celebrate like heck on this one for about the last 17 minutes or so of the show. This was a very well played, very hard fought basketball game. Tennessee led by as many as 10 or 11 points in the game, I think a couple of times, but every time they stretched it out, Ole Miss made a play. I talked in the Oklahoma game and I talked in the Auburn game that during the streak, the thing that stood out was every time that Ole Miss needed a play, they just didn't make it. Either a stop or making a basket, they didn't make it. Tonight, they made a basket every time. They answered every single run by the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee did what they could do to try and put this game away. They absolutely could not. Gainey and Lanier, 17 and 15 points, 32 out of their 76 points. Felix Okpara had 13. So let's do a little box score cleaning up before we get to your comments. Remember, if you're commenting on the game, please put where you're commenting from because I want to give you a shout out when we do that. Ole Miss a 78-76 victory. This is a great box score for me. I'm very fired up because I've said all season, when Ole Miss out rebounds you, you do not beat Ole Miss. Chris Beard is 17-1 all time at Ole Miss if he out rebounds the opponent. So if Ole Miss can out rebound you, there's not a lot of hope for what's going on. But Ole Miss beat Tennessee 78-76. They shot 45.6% from the field, 5 of 19 from three-point range. Not a very good night shooting the ball. outside the arc, only 5 turnovers. The Ole Miss stingy offense that didn't turn the ball over return. They had 37 rebounds in the game, 16 fouls for the game. Tennessee shot 46.3%, 12 of 31 from three-point land, and they got a little bit cold in the second half. Ole Miss needed them to miss threes. You got a lot of volume missed threes. Only 8 turnovers for the game, 33 rebounds for the Volunteers, and 16 fouls. The Vols were paced by Jordan Gainey, who had 17. Chaz Lanier had 15. And those were the 2 3-point guys that were able to make some shots in the game. And Felix Akpara had 13. Pretty interesting stuff. Zakai Ziegler had 15 assists in this game. That was actually quite impressive to see. And rebounding-wise, Akpara had 7 on the game. Really interesting stuff. One thing that I said that Dre Davis was a catalyst, and he had a really bad foul in this game that allowed for a 4-point play before the final shot for Ole Miss went in. But Dre Davis had 10 rebounds, 13 points, double-double in this game, and Ole Miss was largely able to out-rebound Tennessee because of Davis. Malik Dia had a good first half with 13 points. Morrell had 12. Jalen Murray had 9. Sean Padula only had 7 points, but he facilitated as a point guard and had 6 assists in the game. This was very important because Ole Miss did not turn over the ball against a very good defensive team. Jamin Brakefield had 19 points in the game. He shot 8 of 9 from the field, 0 for 1 from three-point range, 3 for 3 from the free throw line. Only had 1 rebound. Had a 7 assist, almost had 15 assists in this game. And a lot of that was Sean Padula and Jamin Brakefield. Jamin Brakefield, like I said, this was the Jamin Brakefield game. And there's really no way to turn around that and look at that any other way. Devin Barnes gave them some valuable minutes, even though he didn't score. Mikal Brown-Jones made an impact as well with a few rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, 5 points in the game. It was probably one of his better games of the year. So it was a really big deal for Ole Miss. They put the brakes, like I said in the title, to the top 5 ranked Tennessee Volunteers and won 78-76, and they deserve this. Chris Beard outcoached Rick Barnes. Jamin Brakefield outplayed everybody on the court and absolutely willed this team to victory. And now Ole Miss looks tournament ready. It looks like, hey, March is about to get a lot of fun for Ole Miss.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Tonight, I'm looking at a ridiculous point spread in the Celtics-Sixers matchup. Boston beat Philly by 20 the last time they met, and FanDuel has taken note. FanDuel has the Celtics by 13.5. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
The Oklahoma Sooners got a big win over number 15 Missouri on Wednesday night, 96-84. And this was a game that Oklahoma led by as many as 14 in the first half, 13 by halftime, and got another big game out of Jeremiah Fears, who scored a career-high 31 points. Sam Godwin was a big part of the start for Oklahoma, scoring 8 of their first 10. And he had 10 points in the first half before leaving with an injury that had him sidelined the rest of the game.
Yeah, they balled out. And you know what's fascinating too? So they started the game off in the first 12 minutes, 75% from the floor. Like where has this been? Outside of non-con. Like,
Yeah.
and I guess this game and, one other SEC game that we saw them go out there and just dominate a team that they probably shouldn't have beat. Like, where has this been? Like, this is the Mississippi State game all over again. It's like, wow, y'all just really came out here and ball. Could have done it against Kentucky, just couldn't, close it out. But they showed up and showed out. I mean, Missouri blew them out there in Missouri the first time we played. And then we came in here and we cooked them. Now, at this point, like you said, this may have punched them into the tournament. They brackets, and I saw one where they were still the last team in. And this win may have pushed them to the point where they're at the top of the last teams in, regardless of what happens in Texas on Saturday. They may actually be in the tournament now.
I think this did enough. They were a bubble team, but I felt like if they got one more win, especially a ranked win, it would be enough to get them in. They've got 4 quad 1 wins, and I think that's going to be enough. And especially if they can go beat Texas on Saturday in Austin, that'll definitely seal the deal for them, because they're playing good ball over the last few weeks. It's just been some heartbreaking losses in the final minute that have kind of sunk them against Ole Miss, against Kentucky. It was kind of a rough week last week, but they bounced back in a big way with this win, especially losing Sam Godwin after just 11 minutes of game action. And then Muhammad Wegi, like, what a great game for him. There was a point in time at about the 7-minute mark of the second half where Mizzou's kind of starting to make a run. They're making a push to get this thing closer. They get within 9, and Wegi scores 6 straight points for the Sooners. Like, he provided that spark off the bench.
And that's what they needed. And you could tell that no matter how much we critique, criticize, or just flat out hate on Porter Mosier, there's one thing you can't say, that his teams don't play hard.
No, they're playing
hard. I'm trying to figure out how he ain't lost a team yet. I'm being for real, John. Like, how has he not lost the team with the way they lose these games in so many heartbreaking fashions? It's just like, oh my goodness, it's just painful. You would think that these boys would quit, but they don't. They keep playing hard, and they end up with wins like this against Missouri and then a win like that against Mississippi State. So I give them that. I just don't understand how we just can't do that more consistently. Yeah. Like, why can't I see the wins come out of it? Like, where you close it out properly. Playing hard is great, but you got to still do the right things to win the games. And Porter Mosier got them working hard. Now he's got to figure out, even though now it's year 4, how to get it to where you can close it, call the right plays, call the right sets, whatever it is. We need to get to that point, but it's still a very impressive win. And like we said, this could have already punched them into there, because they got enough quad 1 wins in comparison to others that are on the bubble with them. I think they have the most in comparison. And the SEC has 1 loss outside of quad 2. So they put themselves in a situation where there's really no reason for them to not get in now, at least at a 12 seed.
Yeah, they moved up to number 50 in the net rating after the win. But a big reason for it was 9 turnovers. Like, this is a team that has been one of the more turnover happy teams in the SEC, and they only had 9. Jeremiah Fears had just 1. And that was the biggest key. Like, as Mizzou really was pressing down the stretch over the final 6-7 minutes of the game, like, they were making life really, really difficult for Oklahoma to get the ball into the front court. And yet Oklahoma wasn't turning the ball over. I think they had maybe 1 turnover in that final 5-6 minutes or so. One of them was Jeremiah Fears, where he he tried to throw a pass to a cutting Jalen Moore, and it didn't quite get there. Got intercepted in the lane, but it wasn't like a sloppy, ball handling situation. And it wasn't even a bad pass. It was just, an aggressive pass. Yeah. And then there was another one where maybe Bryson Goodine stepped out, but the shot clock was really, really, really late in the shot clock anyway. And I think it was going to be a violation, so it would have been a turnover, but they weren't loose with the basketball. They were protecting it well. They were making good decisions, and they were beating the press. And that was really, really impressive, because at times when defenses get aggressive against Oklahoma, especially in the front court, you see the struggles for them to get a good shot off. Well, they were able to beat the press and get some easy buckets in transition, and that really, really helped them late in the game.
It did. It helped them to be able to close it out. All that matters is that they were able to trade buckets in the second half, late in the game, and prevent Missouri from really making a run. And I mean, I know I was listening to people kind of complaining and trying to figure out why they weren't trying to run the clock out. It's like I think they were trying to run the clock out while at the same time understanding that in some situations you go ahead and get those shots up. The shot clock does run down after a while.
Yeah, when you're Bryson Goodine and you're left alone in the corner by yourself,
you take it.
You just have to shoot it. You can't tell the shooter not to shoot. Like, what's he going to do? Stand there and hold the basketball? Yeah. Yes. Would you like him to run clock? Absolutely. But if they're going to leave you 100% wide open, I'm sorry. Please shoot the ball. And he missed it the first time, but he made it the second time. So redeemed himself a little bit.
And that was the most important, is he made the second one, and he kept the lead up there to where, I mean, I think they got no closer than 8. It was probably about the closest they got down the stretch. So, hey, they got the W in a good way, in a big way, a double-digit win against a ranked team, number 15 in the country as well. So now we wait and see if they actually make it into the tourney.
Yeah, go put Texas out of their misery on Saturday, get another win. You listen, here's why I feel confident that Oklahoma is going to be in the tournament. Why does the tournament exist?
Cinderella's.
Money. To sell ad spots. How do you sell ad spots if you're the NCAA tournament? With stars.
Yeah, and Jeremiah Fears is one of those.
They've got a star in Jeremiah Fears. Oklahoma's going to be in the NCAA tournament.
Just because of that. Yeah, everybody wants to see Fears. And like you said, he's a lottery pick. Yep. As of now, he's slated within the top 10 picks. Well, actually top 10, 15. So because of that, he's one player they need to showcase. He needs to have one of those lottery player runs in the tournament where he's just knocking off top teams it shouldn't be knocking off. I mean, he dropped 31 in this game to help his team get to the tourney. And if he keeps showing that confidence and keep growing his game and doing that and getting, if they can win 1, maybe 2 tournament games, unfortunately, y'all, Porter probably ain't going nowhere if they win 2.
No.
They win 1, he might not go nowhere either.
Listen, I don't care. Just go win. I just want to see my team win. If they win a few and Porter's back, okay, he proved that he can get a team to the tournament and he can win a couple games in the tournament. That's what we've been asking for, right?
Yeah, it's true.
As much as I was ready to pack his bags for him and send him out the door because of the way that the month of February went, he's turned it around in the month of March, or I guess the last few weeks. He's turned it around and he has this team. To me, I think they're a tournament team. If not for this most recent win, but for the fact that they've got a marketable star that's going to get people to tune in to watch this young, should still be in high school phenom.
I know.
The storylines write themselves, Jay.
They do.